Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have with me Chris Rossini. He has written a book called Set Money Free, What Every American Needs to Know about the Federal Reserve. And as I noted in the monologue to start today's show, Ron Paul has given a really glowing forward to this book. Ron is very much in favor of it and suggests that each of you go out and buy not one copy but several copies and give it to your friends. And the reason I think that's good advice in part is because the book is really written, it's not written for pretentious PhD economists from Princeton, Harvard, and Yale. It's written for average Americans. Everybody, you can understand this book, but it really lays out the fundamentals of why we've gotten ourselves into the horrible mess economically and in other ways, I'd say, spiritually and morally in many ways, why we've gotten ourselves in such a pickle. So welcome, Chris. It's really good to have you with me today.
Jay, thank you so much for having me on your show.
It's really good. It's really good to have you. And before we go any further, I guess a good place to go to follow your work is where economicpolicyjournal.com, or where can people go? And also, let us know right away where people can buy your book.
Okay, well, the book is available on Amazon.com. It's available in paperback and Kindle, and it's also available on BarnesandNoble.com.
Good.
I write regularly for economicpolicyjournal.com, and my articles are often picked up on LouRockwell.com. There's a nice archive there, and I also contribute and help out as much as I can to one of your regular guests, Daniel McAdams from the Ron Paul Institute. I help him in various ways and even write columns once in a while for Ron Paul Institute as well.
Yeah, I've noticed a couple of your columns there. Thank you for that. We do have Daniel on a regular basis, really because I think he, like yourself and Ron Paul, are really trying to get to the heart of what's causing our difficulties. So I'd like to delve right into your book. We only have about 10 minutes, and it's just a shame. So I'm sure I'm going to want to have you come back. But let's the first section of your book, first chapter, money is created in the marketplace. Can you just give a simple definition of money, perhaps, as a starter here?
Yes, I start off in the beginning talking about money, since it's a book about the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve has a government-granted monopoly on money. It was only logical to me to define what money was. And prior to government takeover. And money was a commodity, any type of commodity that was primarily used in exchange, in trade. Its primary purpose was not for consumption or for industrial uses, but to exchange, to be used as a medium of exchange with other people.
Sure.
And this was a blessing to mankind because it freed man from the horrors of self-sufficiency and barter.
Sure.
There was now a medium of exchange that could be used throughout society, and gold and silver were primarily chosen through tons of trial and error over the years, and they were used all over the world as money. It was only later that the government came and monopolized money for itself. If you look today at any currency in the world, you'll see governments, they have pictures of presidents and pyramids and signatures of bureaucrats. You would think that government owns the monetary domain, but money was created in the marketplace originally.
Yeah, and so by trial and error, you say the market chose gold and silver. I'm just thinking, if I want to, provide some service or sell some commodity to somebody, and I don't have any need to buy anything else at that moment, I want to be able to store value so that when I do have a need, I can use that and go out and buy what I need or whatever good and service I need. And so people chose gold and silver. Why do you think that might have been the case?
Well, there were several reasons, and I list them in my book. The first reason is they're both durable, meaning unlike, let's say, if apples were used as currency, apples would spoil quickly, so it would spoil on you and it would lose its exchange value. They're also very portable, meaning you could transfer them from place to place as opposed to, let's say, land. If land was used as money, you can't really move land. And probably one of the finest reasons that it was used as money was its rarity. It's very hard to dig up and mine gold. Very expensive and very costly process. And you were ensured that your gold and silver coins would not lose purchasing power overnight, because as opposed to today, where governments can print as much money as they want.
It's interesting. I used to hear Doug Casey talk about it. He attributed it to Aristotle, actually. I think you said durability is one. Consistency. He says that's why we don't use real estate. Gold is convenient. That's why we don't use lead. In other words, you had to lug lead around. It's divisible. That's why we don't use diamonds. So you can, you can easily divide it. So, yeah, those are the intrinsic value. As Doug says, that's why we don't use paper, or shouldn't. But of course, we use paper and digital money now. It's even further removed from anything tangible. Yes. So it's interesting, isn't it? How gold and silver was an element. Both of them were elements that work so well naturally without government doing anything. And now we have government stepping in and making a mess of things, clearly. But the second segment or chapter of your book, you talk about banks make a wrong turn. What do you mean by that?
Well, banking was a legitimate business at one point. It was a non-fraudulent business. At
one point, it was.
At one point, yeah. They were used as places for safekeeping of your money. If I have gold coins that I don't want laying around my house, but I trust the bank down the street that he will protect it, I would take it to the bank, and he would charge me a fee for his safekeeping services. If he wanted to loan that money out for business expansion, I would have to agree that I do not have access to my money since it's loaned out to someone else, and the banker would pay me an interest rate for my sacrifice. Since I can't consume, I would be paid an interest rate for my sacrifice. He would then loan out the money to a business that was looking to expand and charge a higher interest rate than what the banker pays me. So the banker would make the spread. And no inflation occurred. Totally legitimate. He would also be profitable in charging me a fee for the storage services. But bankers found a way to be greedy and took a wrong turn.
Would you say dishonest? Because I think I know what you're leading up to, but I'll let you continue on. Fractional reserve banking, probably.
Yes. What happened was it became even more convenient to use receipts for the gold that was stored in the bank. So the banker would give me, let's say, a receipt. Let's say I'm storing 10 ounces of gold with him. He gives me a receipt for that 10 ounces of gold. Now, that receipt is not money. It's just a receipt. It's a claim for the gold that's sitting there. But people would exchange receipts, and obviously the bankers would have to have a great reputation. They would have to know before you exchange a receipt that you could actually go to this bank and the gold will be there. But the bankers saw a situation that they could take advantage of. What happened was the receipts were being exchanged, and less people were coming to actually physically take the gold out of the bank. The receipts were being exchanged, and it was based on trust. So the bankers thought of a scheme that, hey, what if I create fake receipts and make them look just like the regular receipts? I could loan them out, earn interest on them, and all would be great for me. So that's what they did, and that's how they inflated the receipts, basically. And we've all seen the movies with the old movies with the bank runs. It's a Wonderful Life. That's when the people realize that chicanery has been going on. That more receipts exist for the gold that's in the vaults, and they all rush to the bank. And the first people to the bank get the gold out, and the people that don't get the gold because it's gone, they're the ones that are stuck with the fake receipts.
Well, so it seems to me that at least up until Roosevelt and then completely when Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, there was some gold backing the U.S. dollar. But once Nixon took us off the gold standard, you can see that this sort of practice of multiple or creation of money out of nothing, which is what the gold bankers did back then, started to really gain a head of steam, almost with exponential growth of money that occurred post-Nixon, 1971. I can just really look, and that's when our inflation problems started taking place. I don't understand, if you could maybe explain to me, Milton Friedman was a great advocate of free markets, except when it come to money. He believed that the government, the Federal Reserve, should have control of the money. Why do you think, can you explain, maybe you can't explain Milton Friedman, I guess maybe that's asking too much, but where did Milton Friedman go wrong, and what has happened, what's resulted? We've only got a couple of minutes left, my engineer is telling me. Where has this taken us now that we have endless amounts of money creation, now that there's not even any gold constraint on the amount of money that's printed?
I add Milton Friedman to the long list of characters that tried to make a dishonest system work. Mm-hmm. The Fed is a culmination of a dishonest system that is imposed on us by law, and we don't have a choice against it, at least until enough people understand. So he came up with a scheme of you can inflate this much and it'll be okay, and it turns out he was wrong, obviously. And I believe in his later years he said he was wrong. But what we have today is now a system where government can create as much as it wants, and this is the wrong institution to have that kind of power. This is an institution that has the ability to use aggressive force by law against people, mm-hmm. and they can finance it on their own without asking us. They do it with wars. They do it with welfare. They've built the biggest warfare state in the history of mankind. It's what you would expect from government having a monopoly over money. Mm-hmm. And at some point, that has to end by letting the marketplace take over once again.
Well, it seems to me, Chris, that the market will take over whether the government lets it take over or not. The markets ultimately will overpower government. I think we almost saw that take place in 2008, 2009. And as David Stockman has pointed out on this show and in his many writings, nothing has gotten better. If anything, we've dug ourselves into a deeper hole. My engineer is telling me we're out of time. It's just incredible. I didn't allow enough for you today, Chris. So I'm hoping that you can come back next week and we can pick up on this conversation, because I've just barely gotten started with you. But in the meantime, I'd like to tell people that the book is Set Money Free, What Every American Needs to Know About the Federal Reserve. And again, Ron Paul gave it a really glowing endorsement. Ron is saying don't buy one copy of this book, buy several and hand them out to your friends, because this will help the common folks throughout the country understand why we're in such a mess as we are. It's a monetary problem, and I would argue that it also then expands over into a moral problem as well. But Chris, we're out of time, and I'll look forward to talking to you next week, hopefully.
I'll be here. Thanks, Jay.